How much money do you need to become a crypto millionaire? That question is so difficult yet so simple. We've got to break it down in a couple of different sectors. On what time frame are we talking? Are you talking a couple of weeks, couple of months, or the entire cycle? What type of risk taker are you? Do you like to go for very high risk or very low risk? As this will surely increase another question, which is, what is your starting balance? Because again, you have to change your risk profile for it, because how much money you need versus how much money you've got are two very different things. To give an example, a person with $1 million that's only willing to invest 1,000, that 1,000 for him is relatively not as much for somebody who has $1,000 who's willing to try something out. I'd go for a different strategy, and that would also decide how much you basically would probably need that's best suited to you. And the last question basically is, what are you good at? What are you into? Which coins you're going to be going for? Just by saying anybody can do it. Even if you're starting out with $10 right now, you can. All you need is an internet connection to make things a lot simpler, and perhaps a phone. But if you're watching this, that's set, or a computer of sorts, a little laptop, a little tablet, you'll be fine. I always say, use the link down below to sign up for a crypto exchange. It might help your process be a lot quicker, but again, it is not fully necessary. There are always ways around that. But let's just say you need some access to crypto to be able to buy and sell, and need the knowledge, in my opinion, of how to do that. You can, however, find everything I'm talking about here in various different videos or texts over on the internet. You don't have to buy anything. All you have to do is look it up. So let's start by answering how long will it take you to become a millionaire? Again, obviously, it depends on how much you're starting with. If you're starting with 999,000, might only take 5 seconds. On the opposite side, there are a couple of different ways to use $1,000 as $100,000 to the extent in which it would only take way less time, for example, to hit 1 million if you get a lucky strike than if you're not using leverage, for example. But as we go along these crypto rankings here, right, we already can see the amount of market cap that each crypto is worth. And I've told you guys many times over that this number does not necessarily have a cap, which is very much true. Bitcoin right now is almost worth $1 trillion. It could be worth 20 trillion for all we know. There's no official cap on it. What is true, though, is that the higher this number is right here, the more difficult it is for the coin to multiply. An example, Cardano going from 50 cents to $1 would increase this market cap by 20 billion, whereas if Bitcoin were to double, it would increase it by $1 trillion. So meaning the lower along the ranks you go, the more likely you are to double your money, but the less likely you are of success, period. In my opinion, if you're buying a Bitcoin or an Ethereum, for example, your probability of making money, in my opinion, is 99.999%, in my own opinion. Not fact, not financial advice, my opinion. If you go lower and lower down the ranks, your chances, theoretically speaking, keep getting smaller. But then again, if they do make you money, the probability of them making you more money is higher. So it's a literal risk to reward type of weighing that you're doing there, where again, a Bitcoin is less risky and will have a higher chance of going up, but a crazy coin way down lower in the rankings has more risk, but will most likely give you way more of a reward. It will go up a lot more. And I'll tell you right now that we believe in a cycle that I'll depict in two ways. To some extent, it's this right here. That again, prices keep going higher until logically they don't. But you never really know when that top is hit, because when things are falling back down, every single time along this little ladder here as well, you don't know if you're on your way up or on your way down whenever you crash, right? You don't know. Then again, at the same time, we believe this to be true, where Bitcoin is where a lot of money flows in first, which flows into some of your largest altcoins, flows into some of your middle altcoins, so slightly smaller, into smaller and smaller and crazier altcoins. And the reason I said how long of a time span we talking is, if we're talking, this cycle, for example, you've got a way higher chance of hitting this lower section where a lot of altcoins will go from being 1 cent today to being $3 over the next couple weeks. If you're taking only a few days span here, we're not fully into what we call altcoin season, where just a lot of smaller coins go crazy yet. We're getting there, but we're not fully there yet. But if you're watching this video a few months in the future, perhaps we're already in it, where everything just goes crazy all the time, and then you kind of skip these months that we're witnessing right now, but they will just give you an advantage though, because An example of a coin I've held all the way to 1 cent, because I bought it a little bit high, but I held it all the way to, I'm pressing the wrong thing. Held it all the way to 1 cent back in October, is right now sitting at $3.50. So it's going crazy, I know. It's now $270 million worth, but it did a 350x in about, I'm going to say 4 months or so. From the 20th of October, something like that, to right now, the middle of February, it's gone from 1 cent to $3.50. $1,000 is right now $350,000. So to answer your question, with this one, all it would have needed was $3,000 to turn into $1 million. And the more along the altcoin season, in other words, the more along this curve we go, the easier you'll find coins that have this performance. However, we should add that this is where your luck factor comes in, or your analysis factor, and how much time you've got to research these things, how knowledgeable you are. You can increase your chances of finding a coin like this by doing a lot of research and by trying out a lot of different things. And again, by potentially being able to do this over not just 1, but 2 cycles, or again, getting earlier in the cycle where you can learn more about all this crypto stuff and invest in multiple different coins, plant some seeds here and there. On the opposite side, we have to make clear that I personally believe Bitcoin even will still do a 4x, 5x, for example. I personally see Bitcoin going to $100,000 this year, or let's say in the next 60 months or so, perhaps even $200,000. And if that's the case, yeah, if it does a 4x or so, you would need $250,000, which to a lot of people is a lot, don't get me wrong. But so that's where a question like this gets so incredibly difficult. How much do you need? Can it make you a millionaire? If we're talking about one specific coin, this question gets way simpler because we can do a simple analysis of, hey, let's say, for example, a Solana. We expect Solana to do a 10x over this run. I would be satisfied at that point, which basically means over this run, if I wanted to have $1 million at the end, I need to start out with $100,000 right now. But at the start, for example, I said things change if you add leverage to the game. On exchanges like the one I use, Bybit, I've left a link for that down below. You can actually trade with leverage. I've got a whole tutorial about it down below, but that basically means if I've got $1,000, I can trade with it as if I have 10,000, 25,000, or some coins even 150,000. And that can also multiply greatly how much money I'll make if things go up. Obviously, the risk is if things go down, that's also multiplied. But the point still stays quite clear that that changes the entire paradigm of, oh, I needed $100,000 to, again, perhaps only needed $20,000, but invested at the right time with no dips in between. Meaning that you, following this example, are fine with buying it right here, for example, but perhaps would be very unlucky if you're buying it right here, because this very big drop, if the percentage here is too great, you might lose your position. Whereas if you just bought it straight away without leverage, this drop wouldn't really do you too much because there's so much more gains to come. But with leverage positions, you can get liquidated, which is where the amount you borrowed to get leverage basically becomes too much and cancels out your position. It's a story for a different day. It's just to say now that there are ways to multiply how quickly these things can go. And that's also where kind of my line gets really quite wide, which is I'd say, in a minimum, you probably, in my opinion, 4x your money over the next year or two in the crypto space with almost every single coin. Some coins will not join, some coins will literally only fail, and it's your mission to not go for those ones, Ultimately, though, you can have some of them, and if they fail, it's not really a big issue because some of them will do a way higher multiplier. For example, let's say Solana does a 10x. Whoa, there's crazy thunder here. And that's crazy because I'm in Dubai. It almost never rains, and right now it's like storming like crazy. And I have a flight. Oh. Let's say we say Solana and we think it's going to go to $1,000, and that's a 10x. Well, if I invested everything into Solana, I would have only needed 100,000, which again, to a lot of people is way too much. Well, I could have also invested into, pick a coin here, whatever, 𝗏, for example. Well, maybe that coin does a 40x. I only would have needed 25,000. But then I also invested into, some garbage, in EOS, for example, and that goes to 0 or does a 1x. It stays the same. Now, if I did equal parts, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, my 1/3 into Solana would have been what? 10x. We started out with $1,000, for example. That would be, let's say $3,000. With this 𝗏 one, for example, would be what, like 13,000, and then EOS it would be 0. So starting out with 1,000, even though one of them went to 0, we still ended up with 16,000 as an example. 𝗏, I'm not sure if it's that exciting. I just gave it as an example of not every single coin in your portfolio needs to do good, which is why I have a lot of meme coins, a lot of stupid coins in there, because they have more of a multiplier chance. That's why you have a healthy portfolio of usually some coins in the top ranks, because they'll do good for sure, and some coins not even in the top 100, but way down lower, because those could be your next Nosana. And a 5x, a 10x over a week or so in bull season, in altcoin season, is not that strange. Here's a coin I talked about the moment that it launched and before. And you can see it was 10 cents for a good little while. And all of a sudden, from the 6th to the 9th here, it went from 10 cents to 75 cents in just a span of a few days. And again, you might say, but Dusty, that means I still would have needed 130,000 or whatever to get these gains. And I tell you, yes, but no, because if you started with 1,000, you got a 10x now, for example. Now you have 10,000. You could do that 10 more times, or you can now go 3,000, 3,000, 3,000. And you need to multiply a couple of times, sure, but now you're making progress and you can get there because you have a whole season. That's the difference between eating one coin in a very short amount of time versus this bull market, the next year and a half or whatever. And that's why I always say, guys, I started this whole crypto journey winning one tiny little crypto giveaway from somebody. They just gave me a little bit of crypto. Ooh, go. Figure it out. And back when I started, there wasn't as much crypto YouTube. There wasn't as much info available. Binance, Bybit, all the exchanges you might know by now, they weren't around. Some were, but not Binance and some of those big ones. So many protocols I now take for granted weren't around at that time. Right now, it's way easier than ever to make money in the crypto space. And as I've said many times, I think this might be the last cycle where it's this easy and it will happen to this many people. So I always tell people, don't underestimate how quick your gains can be. But don't get lost in it too. Understand that what comes quickly can go quickly. You can double your money overnight, but you can lose half of it the day afterwards. You have to have the mental capacity for this. You have to be able to tolerate stress to make crazy amounts of money. I've said it many times and I'll say it again. If you want to make $10 million, for example, some businesses will be able to do it without any risk, without any loss. Most of them, it'll either cost or you'll have to lose millions in the process. It's just the natural law of progression. To get something, you must lose something else. And very often to get one stage up, you have to lose the stage below, so to speak. To make hundreds of thousands, you probably have to play around and perhaps even lose tens of thousands. To make millions, you're probably going to play around with hundreds of thousands and perhaps lose it. Then again, with coins like Nosana, it might happen overnight, but you're not always sure, you're not always that lucky. So the answer is, theoretically speaking, like I've done, you can do it with like, what, $10 or so. Within one cycle, it's possible. What needs to happen for that to occur is either, there's a couple ways. One, you invite friends or people on the internet, get in the right community, and it gives you like rewards, for example, for doing that. For example, let's say there's a platform and it says invite 5 people. You get $10 for doing that. If you do that once or twice, now you have a $30 starting budget. Or perhaps if you had 0, you have a $10 starting budget now. In my opinion, your best way, right, is what I would personally do. I'd throw it on a little crazy meme coin or something that's just launched, something really, really fresh. Or perhaps even go to Bybit, something like that, and go try it out with some high leverage. It might lose everything, but you could make it now to like a $50 or $100. If you've got $10, it's just very little, where sometimes the fees are too high to make it worth it. If you've got like more towards the $50 or $100 mark, it can be a lot more easy to get very far. So I try to play the game until I have like $50 or $100. And at that point, I'd probably go $30 into 3 different coins, hoping that one of them would pop off, at least give me a couple X. Because once you're in that $200 range, $200 to $500 range, things get way more interesting and way more serious with being able to put $50 into, for example, 5 or so different coins. And then you can really start playing this game properly. Because like I said, with Nosana, for example, $50 4 months ago would either be $17,500. So don't think $50 ain't enough. It really is. It's just about finding the right spot at the right time. And that's why I said as well that the earlier you start, the better, because these opportunities, they will arise more often, for sure, but less often for you to spot. Right now, there are still many undervalued gems of sorts, and at that point, it's going to be mostly just some crazy efforts from a marketing perspective or something that it's hard for you to know about. So yeah, you can definitely do it with $0 right now. That's kind of the plan I would have right there. I would not be banking on a coin to give me a 350x because it's not that realistic. It won't happen that often. However, as I've shown you right now, it does happen every now and then. The more coins you're buying, the more often it does occur. I'd, in the meantime, be doing a lot of these testnet farms. If you don't know what it is, look it up. So just go on to testnets for new projects. Do everything I can because it's free and hopefully get an airdrop. I'd go for some really low-hanging fruit airdrops. And personally, because I know a lot about AI coins and meme coins, I'd focus on those two. And I'd probably just, watch DustyBC's YouTube channel because a lot of cool gems get put on there. Just not kidding, but I it's... No, but I'll probably just do a lot of research into which sectors are most popular, Focus on those sectors, become an expert in it, understand which coins are in a really hyped up state, and go for those, go for the safer plays. Because honestly, don't be banking on those 200Xs or whatever. Try to go for those low-hanging fruits of a 2X, a 3X here and there. I've shown you on the channel the last couple of days. I've done it so many times. You'll be able to do it. And then multiply hard. And don't go crazier per one coin, but I'd personally say split up more into just more different baskets, because as the market picks up, some of those will just skyrocket. And it's nice to at least have a diversified portfolio of coins if you have very little. If you've got good sums of money, you can definitely just buy one coin or 3 coins or whatever, and you'll probably be fine. But if you're just starting out in those smaller phases, diversifying out, in my opinion, is way better, because you just got more of a chance of one making it big for you to now go crazier on one more solid coin, or airdrop farming for Ethereum, which you can't do with just $20, and so forth and so on. So the answer is very simple. $1, $0 can turn to $1 million. I've done it. I won a giveaway, and right now it's worth a ton. Don't let anybody tell you it's not possible. It's not as easy as ABC123, that coin we go, most of the time, but it can be, for sure. Most of the time, though, it takes a lot of hard work and a little bit of luck. But the most important part to understand is that luck you will not find unless you're searching for it by doing it. So if you're not into crypto, you're not actively buying these coins, you'll not get lucky. It's just the truth. If you bought some coins, though, yeah, you can at least get lucky. Otherwise, you couldn't. So yeah, that's about it. And hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you want to get more questions answered, just comment them down below, and who knows, maybe I'll get to it.